Welcome back to another Smart Fit Method Nutrition Moment. I'm Megan Lyons, double board certified clinical and holistic nutritionist. And as we're discussing meal planning and food prep, one of the most common objections that I get is, I don't know how to store food so the texture stays good and it doesn't go bad too quickly. And I understand that. The first thing that I will recommend is invest in some airtight containers. These are glass containers. The coloring is just on the outside just to help you match the lid to the container. And the glass is essential because it is good for the freezer. It doesn't have plastic, so if you do put something warm in it, into plastic, the BPA can leach out and actually microplastics can get into your body. And it's much more stackable, durable, resilient, dishwasher safe, all of that. So I do recommend investing in some glass Snapware container. This Snapware is critical if you're going to be transporting. Let's say I had a soup or something in here. I want it to snap on so that it seals really well. Now let's take that soup. If I'm going to make a soup, I will let it cool. I won't put it piping hot right into the container, especially if I'm going to freeze it. Liquids expand when they freeze. So if I put a piping hot soup in here, snapped it, and put it in the freezer, that will be likely to burst and explode in the freezer, which we don't want. Instead, I'm going to let it cool down to almost room temperature, then put it in my containers, and then store it in the refrigerator or the freezer. Now for me personally, I prepare food on Sundays and I'll eat it all the way until the next Saturday without it freezing. If I am going to make something like fish, I'll eat that earlier in the week, or some vegetables like cucumbers, which tend to get slimy if they're sliced early. Or sliced and not eaten early. I will eat those earlier in the week. But for something like a soup, a stew, a casserole, I am totally fine as long as it's in the refrigerator, eating it 6 to 7 days later. So trust yourself on this. We don't have to eat things just the day after. If you do have a histamine sensitivity, or if you tend to feel not as good with prepared foods that have been around several days, you may consider prepping twice a week or something like that. But for most people, you'll be just fine. So you'll notice that my container is individual size. If I am making that soup, again, for the case of this example, I do not want to store a big vat of 4 servings of soup. Here's why. Number one, it's harder to portion control. Then when I go serve myself, I might underserve myself and not get the protein, fiber, nutrients that I need, or I might overserve myself. And have you ever had that where you make something big and then let's say it made 4 servings, but you overserve a little bit, so you get 3 meals, and then you have just a little bit of soup and you don't know if you should throw it away or eat that for a meal and be starving or whatever. It's just much better to portion it out right away, which is why I recommend investing in these individual containers. Now, two more things actually that I'll recommend. This is a silicone bag called a stasher bag for things like cut up veggies. I really recommend storing in here. These can be frozen or refrigerated, and they're great portable containers instead of Ziploc bags. And then the last thing I'll mention is, if you get sick of eating the same thing over and over, I have a freezer rotation going at all times. So let's say I made that soup again and it made 4 servings, but I really only wanted to eat 2 or 3 this week. Well, I'll put 2 or 3 in the freezer and I'll bring out 2 or 3 other things that I've previously made, so I get variety without having to cook more than one recipe all at once. I hope these tips helped. We'll have more in the series of meal planning and food prep coming soon.